What up, everybody? It is your boy Shane G. I'm back again with another episode of Politics as Usual right here on the Ethos Media Network. Please make sure that you like, you share, and you subscribe for all the latest content. Now, we are going to be reacting to a very important video. This will likely be a very long reaction video because the video that I'm reacting to in itself was almost 2 hours long. It was about, I want to say, an hour and 47 minutes. I chopped it down to the specific part that I want to react to because that video, it was by one of a YouTuber I actually discovered somewhat recently. His name is Professor Dave Explains, and he's quickly grown to be, and he's a science communicator for those of you who are unfamiliar with him. He has a lot of playlists and series about various educational topics and mathematics and science, things like that. So if you just want to learn about these things, he has a great channel for that. But also what he's probably a little bit more famous for is debunking flat earthers, debunking creationists, basically just anti-vaxxers, basically science deniers of all varieties. He is his mission to basically debunk them and expose all of the people who are, for the lack of a better term, charlatans, people who know better but are preaching, an anti-science message, for nefarious reasons. That be because they're overly religious and they know that a lot of science goes against religion, or, because they're being paid to them. There's all sorts of reasons for it. And, Professor Dave does a great job, in my opinion, exposing all of those various reasons why these people are grifting. And he also, in the debunks, he doesn't just essentially shit on the people that he's debunking, but he also does a really good job of the science and why they're wrong and whatever it is that they're saying, right? So, for example, there's a gentleman named Dr. James Tour who is famously against abiogenesis, which, for those of you who are unfamiliar with what that is, abiogenesis is basically how life started. It's the study of how life started on Earth, right? So just trying to figure out exactly the chemistry and what compounds, possibly, form together to spark whatever, was the first life form, the very first simple one-celled life form, whatever that thing was. The study of that is called abiogenesis. And he's very much against this because essentially if we figure out how that happens, then that really just disproves the entire creation theory of, God taking a lump of dirt and creating Adam, and then taking a piece of Adam's rib and then creating another whole human out of that, and then sexual intercourse taking over from that point, I guess. Right. Like if you're a scientifically minded Christian, that's what you would have to believe. So if they prove abiogenesis, then it basically disproves that. So, a lot of Christianity falls apart if you don't believe in the 7-day story, right? So, now there's different ways to interpret the 7-day story, but essentially if you don't buy into the 7-day story, whether that be 7 24-hour days like the most literalist creationists do, or, if you separate each of the 7 days into the 4.8 billion years or 4.6 billion years or whatever the number is that it took for Earth to be created, and you divide that by 7, and then you say each of those days is X amount of years. Okay, you can do it that way too, but there's still other things in there that don't really make sense, right? So anyway, I say all that to say Professor Dave does a great job of debunking all of the science communicators that use sciencey language essentially for non-scientific purposes, right? That's probably the best way to describe what he does. So we're gonna get into the video here because this one's very important. Like I said, so I chopped out of this video. So hopefully, you know, you guys got some time to rock with for a little while. But this video, he debunks basically all of the Israel propaganda that there is. And he does such a good job of it that I really felt like it was necessary for me to react to this portion of the video. The other half of the video, if you guys do check it out, is basically him shitting on Destiny, is a huge Israeli propagandist and a huge Zionist. Now, for those of you who don't know, I'm going to establish this immediately. A Zionist is somebody who believes that the state of Israel needs to exist in its current form as only being a place where Jewish people are treated as citizens. That is what a Zionist is. It's not somebody that believes that Jewish people have the right to go to Israel or live in Israel, or that Jewish people don't have a right to exist, or Israel doesn't have a right to exist. It's not that, right? A Zionist is somebody who believes that the current state of Israel as it exists today, which is a genocidal, you know, apartheid state that is, of course, occupying and slaughtering people in the West Bank and Gaza, famously, you know, in parts of Lebanon, different parts of the Middle East, right? You know, so, and they want it so that the laws there, like, basically, they want fearless. They don't want everyone to be treated equally. They want Arabs and all non-Jews to be treated lesser than regular Jews. That is what a Zionist is. And that is what people mean when they speak about Zionists. They don't just mean Jews at large. In fact, I have an article that I'm going to bring up later in the stream at some point. Hopefully I still have access to it. But there was an article in the AP that basically said that Jewish people, really it comes down to how religiously Jewish somebody is, because there's a lot of what they call atheist Jews. And what that means is it's somebody who is culturally Jewish. You know, they may celebrate all the holidays and, you know, identify with, like I said, the culture of being Jewish and, you know, like the ties to Israel, Israeli customs, things like that, right? But they don't believe in God, right? Those are atheist Jews. Then you have religious Jews who believe in God and also do all the customs, and, you know, they're fundamentalists. Well, not all of them are fundamental. There's religious, there's fundamentalists, there's atheist Jews, and then there's just like kind of cultural Jews who like sort of loosely believe in God, but they don't really think about it too much, and they just kind of go on about their business every day and just live life, and they happen to be Jewish, right? So there's different categories, and essentially what this study shows is that the further religion, the more religious you are as a Jewish person, is the more you support what Israel is doing right now. So the lesser affiliated Jewish people, the atheist Jewish people, younger Jewish people at large, again, we'll get into the study, I'll bring it up a little bit later in the show, but it's just to show that Jewish people as a whole are not really on board with this. Israeli Jewish people are on board with this, but as you'll see in this video, there's even Israeli Jewish people who are against what's going on, and the other Jewish people in Israel will attack them openly in the streets. You know what I'm saying? So there's like an internal conflict going on as well. So without further ado, this is Professor Dave, and this is him debunking Israel's propaganda. Let's go.
Now, many of you are aware that this is not the first time I've been harassed and slandered by Zionists, not by a long shot. Right after the genocide began, for several months I was spending way too much time on Twitter, relentlessly combating Zionist propaganda being disseminated by hordes of paid influencers whose job it was to brainwash the masses and manufacture consent for genocide. You've never seen propaganda anywhere in your life like what was being vomited up at that time. A fabrication of 40 beheaded babies, which Joe Biden...
That was not true. They said that there were 40 beheaded babies. Turns out I want to say there were 40 people that died, and 2 of them were children, and none of them were beheaded, if I'm getting it right. So, but everyone spread the story that 40 babies got beheaded.
And himself publicly claimed to have seen photographic evidence of, only to later walk back and admit that no such evidence exists, since it's not a thing that happened. Fabricated claims of a baby being cooked in an oven, endless claims of rape when in fact it is Israel that systematically rapes Palestinian prisoners in the most brutal manner imaginable. A behind-the-scenes clip of a Lebanese short film used to claim that Palestinians were faking the war crimes against them, yielding the birth of the disgusting term Pallywood. Claims of immense networks of Hamas bases underneath hospitals to justify the bombing of every single hospital in Gaza, only to provide zero evidence of such bases after the fact, except a few planted guns several hours after entering, and a list of terrorists that was really a calendar. A tidal wave.
Do you guys do you hear what he's saying right now? I just let it sink in, like the type of the lengths they were willing to go to tell these lies, just so that they could perpetuate this war, which is again really a genocide against Palestinians. They told all those lies.
Of lies in the form of social media activity that was viewed by many millions of people. Endless dehumanizing rhetoric to garner support from the West for a totally pre-planned campaign of ethnic cleansing and land theft. At any rate, influencers were being paid to disseminate the narratives that the state had settled on each day. I was shitting all over these disgusting frauds day and night for several months, and the wrong people noticed, so they dogpiled on me and got my account suspended. People often note that you can find some really egregious anti-Semitism on social media, so my tweets must have been even worse than those of actual Nazis in order to merit suspension. But those people are very confused. Zionists love anti-Semites. They quietly celebrate their presence on social media because their existence fuels Israel's victimization narrative. Israel can bomb anything they want, shoot any child in the head, steal any land, but they will always continue to be the victims. Scary.
And that's the thing, like they're able to do that because, again, and as long as, that's why if you look back, there are articles, and I've covered it on this channel, there are articles where they explicitly explain why Benjamin Netanyahu and higher-ups want Hamas to exist and want what they deem to be terrorist organizations to exist. It's because if they commit terrorist acts and you can convince the world that they're terrorists, then it will forever prevent them from getting statehood, because who wants to help out terrorists? They were actually providing funds to Hamas at one point. This is all documented. I'm not making any of this up. So again, these are the lengths that they went just to be able to keep this perpetual war going, so that way eventually they could wipe them all out and take all that land. This is for the Greater Israel Project. That's what this is about.
Anti-Semites who want all Jews to die, whether a particular instance being referenced is real or not, are a key facet of this narrative. So that's not what gets targeted for suspension. What gets targeted is anyone who is effectively combating and exposing the state-sponsored Hasbara narratives, which I was doing with a passion. So I was booted from the platform, which honestly was a relief more than anything else, as this activity was starting to take a toll on my emotional well-being, and then their campaign to smear me began. First, the social media activity. This actually started before my account was terminated.
Just look at the screen for a second. I want you to read all of those because it's all damn near the exact same message. It's quite disappointing to read Dave's content. Oh yeah, Twitter, I guess. That's accurate. He's someone I've followed for a long time, and it's disheartening to see someone disappointing and disheartening. I do want to just point that out real quick. Disheartening to see someone who claims to be a scientist diving into conspiracy theories without taking the time to understand the actual facts. Regrettably, I've chosen to unfollow him. I find it disheartening. Oh, interesting. This is a different person who's using the exact same language. Weird. Disheartening to read Dave's content. Despite being a longtime follower, it's disappointing. Oh, so we switched those words up. So it's disappointing here and then disheartening, whereas here it's disheartening then disappointing. To see someone claiming to be a scientist enforcing conspiracy theories without delving into the actual facts. Actual facts. Unfortunately, I've decided to unfollow. Regrettably, I've chosen to unfollow. Okay, are we seeing a pattern here? The next one from Michael O. It's so disappointing to read Professor Dave. He's someone I followed for a long time. Really, all of these people having to follow you for such a long time, and then this was the weird. And it's a bit sad that someone, a scientist, also a repeat of the same thing, falls into conspiracy theories and doesn't learn the facts. Unfortunately, I've unfollowed him. And the last one, it says the same shit. Do you think these are real people? Do you think this is AI? Do you think these are bot farms? Does it seem legit? Does it seem like all of a sudden, within 30 minutes of each other, all of these people all said basically the exact same thing, damn near word for word, bar for bar?
Hundreds of tweets like this, very obviously scripted and disseminated for all the lemmings to copy and paste. Pretending to have been followers of mine, regrettably they must unfollow because I'm a Nazi. It's all quite unconvincing. They do this all the time. You can always find clusters of scripted copy-paste tweets, like this recent campaign that Destiny would probably enjoy. Then came the harassment on YouTube. Thousands, and I'm not joking, literally fucking thousands of these for weeks. These came from the bot farms that Israel employs to shift the narrative.
I want you guys to look at what this is, okay? This is what we call a bot farm. Now, this is hundreds, if not thousands, of cell phones that are all in the same the same location. And what you can do is you can type into this laptop down here at the bottom underneath this text, if you see it. You can look at that laptop. You can program the laptop to send messages to all of the phones at the same time, so that way you get these mass-produced messages. But it makes it seem like a lot of people it's basically a way to try to manipulate people's natural inclination for groupthink. You know, people naturally want to follow groupthink, and evolutionarily speaking, that makes sense, because if you're part of the family, if you're part of the clan, if you're part of the crew, if you're part of the gang, then you live. Outsiders and outcasts die, evolutionarily speaking. So that's just something that's ingrained in humans, where we want to be a part of the group. You know what I mean? Now, of course, there's a spectrum to that, but for the most part, everyone wants to be a part of the group, whatever the group is in your life. So if you're in a political sphere and all of a sudden all these messages from these accounts, you know, that are all shifting the opinion one way, that is going to make a lot of people go, oh, maybe I'm tripping because I seem to be the only one that thinks this way. But I'm seeing hundreds of accounts that all think the opposite way, so I'm bugging. And that's how you shape the narrative, you know, because that one person, you extrapolate that amongst the country, and that's going to affect a lot of people. You know, a lot of people will change their opinions because they think the public opinion is changing. Now, sometimes that's used for good, you know what I'm saying? Like things like, I would say in the 90s and in the early 2000s, you know, being racist was uncool. And that's because public opinion sort of pressured people into being more accepting. You know, in the 2000s and 2010s, I would say the same thing happened with gay people. That became more accepted, maybe not to the same degree that racial acceptance was. You know, I think there were less open racists than there were open, like, homophobes, you know what I'm saying? But eventually I would say that, like, I mean, I kind of think now all the focus is, all the energy goes towards trans people. I think gay people, like, I mean, please correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't want to be ignorant about this, but it almost seems like they're in the, like, I'm saying but you guys know what I'm saying, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like gay people aren't the concern of the bigots right now, is what I mean. Like, I'm sure they still face bigotry, but really it's about trans people when it comes to LGBT issues. So, but my point is, in saying all of that, is narratives get shaped because of groupthink. And so this is a way to portray groupthink without it being actual groupthink, and then it becomes groupthink. Because so many other people have already bought into the idea that so many other people think this way. when that's not necessarily the case. Hopefully I explained that well
on every
enough.
platform they can. Optics are everything, and even this very blatant artificial activity can skew things in their favor to some degree. But that's just the beginning. Organizations like StopAntisemitism.org and Canary Mission are a form of weaponized retaliation against those who speak up for Palestine on social media. I was named Anti-Semite of the Week, along with countless actors and activists like John Cusack, Susan Sarandon, Mark Ruffalo, Roger Waters, Cynthia Nixon, Greta Thunberg, Bassem Youssef, Mamdani, of course, basically anyone who draws significant attention to Israeli crime.
A lot of good names on that list. That's a list of names that I would be proud to be associated with. So can't take that as an insult at all.
Crimes against humanity, thereby posing a challenge to the Hasbara narrative. You know, horrible, vile anti-Semites like Miss Rachel, the children's content creator who scandalously requested on social media that Israel stop bombing children, and who can be found singing songs with...
Shout out to Miss Rachel. She has been going off on Threads. So make sure you follow her on Threads because she's been going off and everybody's got her back. Anybody who, like, I'm talking parents, people without kids like me, like, everybody's got Miss Rachel's back because we realize that she is the new she's Mrs. Rogers, right? Miss Rachel is Mr. Rogers' daughter, like in TV world, right? Like, not really, but you know what I'm saying? Like, she took that role on and kids love her and parents love her, you know what I mean? And she's a positive influence, and all she's saying is black boys deserve to grow up and stop bombing children. And for whatever reason, that pissed the right wing off so much. Like, that's a weird thing to get upset about, like, unless you're racist, right? Like,
Palestinian double amputee toddlers. How dare she humanize children who have had their legs blown off by inhuman monsters? As part of these smear attempts, founder of Stop Antisemitism, Leora Rez, and other wastes of human life enact brutal campaigns to ruin the lives of whomever they target, doxing them, and doing whatever they can to get them fired from their jobs, especially for medical professionals. For me, there was not much they could do. I'm self-employed. They tried to smear me on LinkedIn, but nobody gave a shit. Eventually, they move on. But perhaps with how much I've finally been talking about Israel in my YouTube content, as opposed to simply tweeting about them, a second wave of attention is coming my way. To demonstrate how no amount of criticism of Israel will ever be enough, we're going to talk a lot about how awful Israel is. Truly, they are the most potent force of pure evil in the world since the Nazis, ironically. The level of disdain they have for human life is beyond comprehension. Not simply the ability to murder tens of thousands of children like they're termites, but the delight they express in doing so, and the overwhelming support that is expressed by Israeli citizens for this genocidal activity. More than 80% of Israelis support.
I'm going to be making sure that I pause and read some of the things that the Israeli soldiers, government officials have said, because Kyle Kalinske always makes this point from Secular Talk when he says that when they speak in English, they always say things in a way that makes it seem fair, rational, you know, reasonable. But when they speak in Hebrew, they sound like Klansmen speaking about black people, or they sound like Nazis speaking about Jews, you know? Like, they really have become the exact thing that they were fighting against. Like, the whole reason that Israel exists is because of the Holocaust. And now they're committing a Holocaust against others to keep the land that they were given because of the Holocaust that they went through. Insane.
The complete annihilation of the Palestinian people. It is a twisted, psychotic society that celebrates the destruction of innocent human life. They proudly announce it openly, their desire to wipe Palestinians and other Arabs from the face of the earth.
Gaza must be erased so that the settlers can see the sea. The situation needs to end. What we did in northern Gaza, we must do it in South Gaza, evacuating Gaza of Arabs. evacuating Gaza of Arabs and building Jewish settlements in all of Gaza. Because the settlers of the Gaza Strip want to see the sea. In order to see the sea, all homes in Gaza must be destroyed. Did you hear what that woman said? All homes in Gaza must be destroyed because the Jewish settlers, they want to look at the ocean. And in order to look at it, can't be a bunch of dirty Arabs there. We got to clear that shit out. That's what she just said. Like, that's what they say in Hebrew. They wouldn't say that on American television. There was never peace with these savages, is what this next one says, starting out. There is no peace and never will be. It's not that I don't want peace. I want peace too. This land belongs to only the people of Israel. All of Gaza, all of Lebanon should be cleansed of these camel riders. All of Gaza, all of Lebanon should be cleansed of these camel riders, is what he said about the Palestinians and Lebanese. I grew up with a lot of Lebanese people. They were very cool, very nice. I grew up with Palestinians also.
Is I don't care about Gaza. I literally don't care. For all I care, they can go out and just swim in the sea.
That's very. She said that in English. she just didn't give a fuck. This is what we're dealing with. This is how they feel. This isn't. They're not talking about Hamas only. They're not talking about. They're talking about everyone that is Arab in the area. Everyone that's Palestinian, everyone that's Lebanese, they want it all. And they're saying it very plainly. There's no way to deny what they're saying. We are imposing a complete siege on the city of Gaza. There will be no electricity, no food, no water, no fuel. Everything is closed. We are fighting human animals, and we are acting accordingly. What does that sound like? That sounds like a bunch of Spaniards and Italians, or not Italians, Spaniards and whoever else was with Christopher Columbus and them when they came over, and they called the natives savages. And when the Brits started colonizing the 13 colonies, and they called them savages. This also sounds like 2001, 2002, 2003, when we were fighting over in Afghanistan and Iraq, and they were savages. This also reminds me of the language that they used to use against black people in the, early days of the United States. That's why we were considered 3/5 of a human being in the Constitution, because we were savages and animals. Interesting that that's the language. That is the language that they use to dehumanize you. They turn you into an animal or a savage. When it happened to the Jews, they were turned into rats, rodents, vermin. That's what they were called. So they know the strategy because it happened to them not that long ago, less than 100 years ago. Gaza won't return to what it was before. We will eliminate everything. Again, these are government officials, military officials, representing Israel, and this is what they're saying. IDF soldiers are above this argument and cannot be blamed. What was done in Gaza, it's a shame and it didn't get worse. It's a shame it didn't get worse. I want my son to kill anyone who stands in front of him, and wants to harm the state of Israel, including children. Yes, including children. And they're singing, "May Your Village Burn." Doing aerobics and shit.
Have you seen?
This is Israel. This is Israel today. That was a TikTok video. This isn't from the 90s. That's today.
Seen enough? No, I don't think you have. Israeli lawmaker Yitzhak Kreuzer says there are no innocent children in the West Bank, defending the bloodthirsty behavior of settlers that murder helpless Palestinians and steal their homes on a regular basis.
The same settlers that attacked Ro Khanna, by the way, when he was over there. I don't know if you guys saw that video, but he made the rounds after he came back, and he was pissed, which he should have been, because they could have killed him. But these are the settlers that they're talking about. Kidnapping our Congress people who vote to give them the weapons that they're using against the Palestinians.
With total impunity. The West Bank, no Hamas here, just Palestinians living under a brutal system of apartheid. Whether they are children or women, it doesn't matter to me. Journalist Shimon Rickley.
They're not soldiers. Women and children, not soldiers.
And says Gaza should be wiped from the face of the earth. Journalist and politician Yinon Magal says it's time for Nakba 2, which means another massive wave of killing Palestinians and cleansing them from their territories to acquire these lands for Israel. Revital Gottlieb of the Likud party says, bring down buildings, bomb without distinction, stop with this impotence, you have ability, there is worldwide legitimacy, flatten Gaza without mercy, this time there is no room for mercy. You think this hatred is reserved only for Palestinians? Think again. Israeli Minister of National Security Ben-Gvir says that for every tear of an Israeli mother, 1,000 Lebanese mothers must weep. All of Lebanon must burn. Are you fucking listening? All of Lebanon must burn? This is not Israel-occupied Palestine. This is a sovereign nation with territory that Israel has lusted after since its inception, and which it is currently successfully stealing. But back to Gaza, Israeli
with our assistance and our money and our weapons and our,
military official Eliyahu Yassian says there is no population in Gaza. There are 2.5 million terrorists. There is no meaning to giving them warning missiles. Israeli politician Moshe Feiglin stated,
there is no population in Gaza. There's only 2.5 million terrorists. Directed just at Hamas. This is all of Palestinians. They want to kill them all or displace them. They want the land. They're like, we will kill as many as we have to until the rest of you just leave.
It's outright that Hamas is not the enemy. It's every child in Gaza. Every child, toddlers, babies. Babies are terrorists. Anyone who would say this is a sadistic monster. There are entire databases filled with hundreds of instances of very clear incitement to genocide. They openly announce that they intend to commit genocide, not just random nut jobs on social media. Israeli officials, legislators, military personnel, decision makers, they all state this openly. I'm
going to pause this just so you guys can read some of the quotes. I'll just leave it up for a second. Benjamin Netanyahu, he is the leader of Israel. He said, we will turn Gaza into an island of ruins. Let you guys read some more of those before we continue, because I want you guys to really understand whenever they say anything about wanting peace, whenever they say anything about, oh, we're trying to strike a deal with the fucking crazy Palestinians and Hamas and them, they don't want to. This is what they really think.
Desire to completely wipe out the Palestinian population. Take a second and read this crap. This is a drop in the bucket. You listen to any of these assholes for long enough, you get some shit like this about human animals, or Amalek, who their God commanded them to destroy in the Torah, or whatever other rhetoric they can think of to justify the extermination of an entire race of people. Just like the Nazis did to the Jews in calling them vermin, parasites, rats, whatever they could do to dehumanize them. It's identical. They proudly announce genocidal intent and then later deny the actualization of that intent when accused of the genocide they are committing, gaslighting the world with rhetoric about how the IOF is the most moral army in the world, rather than the reality that they are actual terrorists. Here's Israeli Minister for Social Equality announcing how proud she is of the ruins of Gaza, and that every baby 80 years from now will tell their grandchildren what the Jews did. They take pride in the complete annihilation of a people.
They whine about how they suffered a Holocaust, but then commit one themselves and then brag about it. Zionists are pure fucking evil. Absolutely. That's the quote at the bottom. Here's what she's saying. Every baby, even years from now, will tell their grandchildren
and you
what
don't
the
have to
Jews
take
did,
the
and
word
they
of
will be
officials.
murdered.
You can ask the soldiers
Israeli
themselves.
soldier, it's
they
good
proudly
to kill
brag about
babies.
children they've killed.
We are looking for babies, but there is no babies left.
What babies? Say that
We would kill the babies, but there are no babies left.
again. Say it again.
No, maybe I kill a girl, she was 12, but I'm looking for a baby.
Do you like
Maybe I killed a girl who was 12, but I didn't kill a baby.
Palestinian children?
Yes.
The question was, do you like killing Palestinian children? He said yes.
Does it make you feel good when you bomb a hospital?
Does it make you feel good when you
Really?
bomb a hospital?
You guys,
Yes.
children in Lebanon, is that okay?
You guys
Yeah,
kill
this is
children
okay
in
because
Lebanon.
in
Is that
Hamas.
okay?
What
Yes,
about
it's
the
okay because of
children, the
Hamas.
baby?
About the children, babies.
The baby is good to.
Really, in
It's
Lebanon?
good to kill.
Yes, in Lebanon, in Gaza, in Iran.
Really, it's okay to kill babies in Iran?
Yes, yes. It's
And
okay.
in Gaza?
Yes.
And in Lebanon?
Yes.
You really believe that?
Yes.
Really? Have you ever killed any Palestinians?
I.
Have you ever killed any Palestinian children?
I
How many?
don't know.
You don't keep track?
No, but I.
So he's kind of smiling, smirking, and he was basically saying, yes, I've killed Palestinians, and yes, I've killed children. I don't know how many. I don't keep track.
מערב, זיהינו 3 אובייקטים
We spotted 3 moving
קרם
figures
לעברנו
approaching us in
לשטח
the
שהוא
area.
שטח
This is
השמדה.
considered a kill zone.
ואנחנו
And we received
קיבלנו
orders
פקודה לחסן
to
את
kill
3
3
אובייקטים, כי הם
individuals
נכנסים לתוך שטח
because they
השמדה
entered
שלנו.
our kill zone
שמנו אותם,
and we killed them
מג ונגב, שתי
using
נשקים.
mag and Negev weapons or Negev weapons. And later it turned out that the 3 individuals
ילדים
were
בגילאי
2 children
בין
aged
10
10 and 12
והאימא שלהם.
and their mother.
ואנחנו היינו
And
צריכים
we killed
לחסל
them
אותם בסופו של דבר, הפעלת פקודות.
based on the orders we were given. She's smiling. I killed a boy. I don't even say,
אני אומרת הצבא,
I
לא
don't even
אומרת,
say the army.
עכשיו זה
It's
קשה.
hard to think about it now.
אותו זמן הייתי חושבת על זה
At the time, I
מלא,
would think about it a lot.
עכשיו רק צוחקים
Now
על
we
זה,
just laugh about it
כמו שאפשר לצחוק.
as much as one can.
זה נהיה פשוט שם, כאילו, את יודעת, חלק ממני.
Now it's there, like a part of me.
סיוון, זה לא יורד.
Sivan,
מה לא
it's
יורד,
not coming
רותם?
off.
את לא מבינה, אני
Won't
מנסה
come off,
כל
Rotem.
סבון.
You don't understand. I
מה
keep
לא
trying
יורד,
with soap.
רותם? הדם
Won't come off,
מהידיים.
Rotem. The blood won't come off my hands.
יש לי דם על הידיים, אני לא יודעת מה
Blood on my
לעשות.
hands.
Of course,
I don't know what to do. And she was laughing about it.
this is a drop in the bucket. Countless children in Gaza have been targeted and executed by snipers. There are so many accounts from both local and international doctors who received child after child with a single precise bullet wound to the head. Again, soldiers state outright that they intentionally murder children and that they're specific.
You see that at the top? How many kids you killed today? I got 3. That's a literal thing that they do. There's a game that they play where they will aim for a different body part every day, and they'll rack up points based on who can hit the most people in that body part. So, like, maybe one day it'll be the leg, you know, and they'll try to hit a bunch of people, and then all of a sudden a wave of people end up in the hospital with leg shots. And then maybe the next day it'll be the stomach, and then a whole bunch of people will get wheeled in with stomach shots, etc., etc. How many kids did you kill today? I got 3. This is what they do. They've made a game out of committing a genocide.
Ordered to do it, while officials continue to put on a show and act offended when it is suggested that soldiers do the things they openly admit they are doing. This is the definition of gaslighting. And how do Israeli soldiers and officials justify this grotesque behavior? Naturally, they have divine permission for it. They state this openly all the time as well. They are the chosen people, so they can do whatever they want. They say Israel is allowed.
And if you believe in the Bible, that is true. God freed the Israelis from the slaves and then immediately after gave them instructions on how to take slaves for themselves. He's only like, this is only, if you believe in the Bible, like literally to be true, if you're a Bible literalist, then the Israelis are correct. It's another reason I don't believe in the Bible.
To ignore the directives of international law in any field it desires. International law doesn't apply to them, so they should be able to commit genocide. They say they are entitled to violate the sovereignty of foreign countries. This means that any land they desire is theirs for the taking. This is announced proudly, publicly, and supported by a citizenry that has been brainwashed into believing that they are genuinely superior to other peoples.
It's also supported by U.S. Congress people. I forgot who it was, but somebody was interviewed recently and they were flat out asked, like, so do you believe in, I believe Tucker Carlson interviewed, he's in my head and I cannot think of his name right now, but he's in my head. But Tucker Carlson asked him, like, so are you basically saying that based on what the Bible is, Israel can take as much land that it says they can have in the Bible? And he basically was like, yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. And he goes, so he starts naming off the places. He was like, and because in the Bible it says that you're saying Israel has a right to that land. And then he basically reiterated, he was like, Israel has a right to all the land it says in the Bible. Or like, I'm paraphrasing a lot of that, but look it up. Like this happened not that long ago. I'm going to look it up. You guys can look up exactly who he interviewed. Was it Ted Cruz? No, it wasn't Ted Cruz, I don't think. I don't think it was Ted Cruz. Let me see. Who was it? Mike Huckabee. Fucking Mike Huckabee. That's who it was. Yeah, Mike, look at that interview. Now, this is a little bit harder for me to read on the screen right here, but basically what's happening here is at this school, kids are being trained to see Arabs as slaves and all non-Jews as inferior. And on your TV, if you're looking at this or on your phone, I want you to please read the text in the middle, because that's what the kids are saying to their teachers openly. Like, my teachers would have been appalled if I said anything like this about another race of students. Like, this is
מה קורה כשאתם פוגשים ילד חילוני? למה אתם מרחם עליו שלא נולד חרדי? מה הוא מפסיד? הוא לא הולך. כשאתם חושבים על ירושלים בעוד 10 שנים, כולם חרדים? לא כולם חרדים, חלק חרדים. כולם יהודים, ויש גם ערבים שהם עובדים. יהיה משיח, הבנתי, כן, מה אתה אומר? שמלחמה כל הערבים ימותו, וחלק מהם יהיו עבדים.
Arabs will be slaves. They are inferior. Babies are terrorists. This is Israel. This is not some fringe political group. This is the whole fucking country. This is how they justify the slaughtering of countless innocent people, a thing that has been going on for almost 80 years now, but never with such ferocity as the past 2.5. And because the media will never show you these victims or describe their slaughter with accurate language, I will. This is who Israelis are talking about. Look at these people. Look at these children. That anyone could look at these children and call them terrorists that deserve to die is beyond comprehension. Israeli officials who carry out this activity are rotten to the core and beyond saving. They are twisted and evil. But any member of the global public that can listen to these politicians or their puppets on social media say these things and look at these children and remain resolute in supporting Israel is also a lost cause. Anyone who supports Israel is either completely brainwashed or a racist piece of shit. They bought into the brown people bad narrative that has been pushed in the media and entertainment for decades in order to justify American imperialism in the Middle East. They fell for precisely the same dehumanizing rhetoric that led to the Holocaust. If you support Israel, you are a Nazi. There is no meaningful distinction between support for Israel today and support for Nazi Germany in the 1930s and 40s. Given the
Or support for the Klan, you know, in the United States in, you know, early 20th century and late 19th century when they were at their most powerful. Like, they're still operating, but nobody's really scared of the Klan anymore, you know what I mean? There was a time where they struck fear in people's hearts. Like, now it's like we know you're idiots with no teeth who fuck your cousins, you know what I'm saying? Like, nobody's scared of the Klan anymore. But that would be the equivalent, you know, like for us, like, and the slave owners and, you know, those people. It would be, it's the same thing. Like, that's why this is a very interesting time in history, because you know where people would have stood back in those times, you know. Because if you're on Israel's side now, then you would have been on the slave owner side back in the day, and you would have been on the Klansman side back in the day, and you would have been on the Nazi side back in the day. You're that's who you are. Because it's pretty odd, especially today. Like, even back then, falling for propaganda was way easier because everyone didn't have a phone and a constant news source to be able to be plugged in. So you literally, you couldn't follow what was going, like there was a lot easier to propagandize people, you know what I mean? Just because there was a lot less, you know, there may have been more media companies and like newspapers and things of that nature, but again, you got to wait on that news cycle to happen every day or once a week or, you know, every couple of days or whatever it is. You know, they got to print those papers and actually get them out. Whereas if I film some shit and put it out, it can instantly be news right then on the spot, and then I can then go film something else while 30 other people are doing the same thing. So there's just so much more access to information now that if you compare this to all the horrible shit we learned about in history, this is the same thing. So now you get to pick your side. You get to test and see what type of person you would have been back in the day, because it's happening now.
The age we live in, the horror show that is this genocide can be viewed by anyone with the courage to see it. It is the first genocide in history that has been broadcast globally in real time on a daily basis. It is undeniable unless you deliberately look away. So-called liberal Zionists, which is an oxymoron, are in denial of this reality. Their everyday lives consist of endless mental gymnastics to avoid witnessing the carnage. Their social media feeds are filled with propaganda peddlers convincing them that none of it is real. Genocide isn't real. If you don't go and look at it yourself, then you can pretend it doesn't exist. Well, I'm going to show you to the best of my extremely limited ability what is happening. This video almost certainly will not be monetized. I am fully aware of that and I don't care. But I can't show you the true extent of the carnage, as that would violate YouTube's community guidelines, and my channel could get deactivated from a single violation of this nature. This means that while I can tell you about archivegenocide.com, and I can take select clips from there to place in this video, I can't show you the thousands upon thousands of videos of Palestinian children lying dead in a ditch with their guts pouring out of their abdomens, of Gazan parents clutching the lifeless bodies of their progeny in their arms, crying out to their God with a despair that haunts me every time I look at my own children. And I certainly can't show you what was never even captured: the countless bodies instantly vaporized, the countless bodies still trapped under rubble that will never be recovered, the countless bodies with limbs zip-tied and shoved into mass graves, with dirt bulldozed on top of them, often still alive, shrieking as they get their last glimpse of daylight. There's no way for me to physically illustrate for you the true extent of this genocide. And that brings us to the main point of this video. Dickheads like Destiny deny the fact that Israel is committing genocide. This is beyond comprehension. Any honest person with the courage to look can instantly see what has been going on in Gaza for nearly 3 years now, and it is objectively genocide. Anyone who wants to complain about how
And the reason they're saying that it's genocide now and they're not going back all the way, to 1947 when all of this really started is just because the numbers have dramatically increased since October 7th. And again, the fact that we can see it every day. But this has been going on way long before, October 7th. Like, the West Bank was occupied when I was in high school and going back before that. And I graduated high school in 2005, so
woefully unqualified I am to make that assessment, they can shut their dumb fuck faces because you don't have to take my word for it. Every single human rights organization in the entire world has labeled this a genocide. Let me play a short clip from Mehdi Hassan since he will be able to get this point across quite succinctly.
Gaza has been cut off from the world for almost 3 years and subjected to war crimes, ethnic cleansing, genocide. But if you say that, Israel and its supporters will accuse you of lying, of being anti-Semitic, of perpetrating a blood libel. So let me debunk this argument in less than 60 seconds by asking one very simple question. Start the clock. Do you believe Benjamin Netanyahu, Itamar Ben-Gvir and Bezalel Smotrich about what's been happening in Gaza, or do you believe the UN Independent Commission of Inquiry, the UN Special Committee, the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, the UN High Commissioner for Refugees, the UN Special Rapporteur for the Occupied Palestinian Territories, 14 other UN Special Rapporteurs, the former UN Humanitarian Chief, UNICEF, Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, Bet Salem, Gisha, Physicians for Human Rights Israel, Doctors Without Borders, Oxfam, Save the Children, Christian Aid, Action Aid, the NGO Air Wars, the NGO Action on Armed Violence, the International Association of Genocide Scholars, and its president Melanie O'Brien, the editor of the Journal of Genocide Research, Dirk Moses, the author of the book What is Genocide, Martin Shaw, the leading Israeli Holocaust scholars, Omar Bartov, Amos Goldberg, Daniel Blattman, Raz Siegel, Shmuel Lederman, the Norwegian Refugee Council, the Danish Refugee Council, Refugees International, the International Rescue Committee, the former head of Israel's military, Moshe Yalon, the former head of Israel's Shin Bet, Ami Ayalon, the former deputy head of Israel's Mossad, Amran Levin, and the former prime minister of Israel, Ehud Olmert. Who do you believe, them or the Israeli government? Who do you think is lying? All of them? Or Benjamin Netanyahu?
But Mehdi, didn't you know that all of those organizations and all of those people are Hamas? The entire world hates Jews. Only Israel is telling the truth. Everyone else is a lie.
And that's why Zionism is anti-Semitic, because what they're doing is they're conflating being Jewish with everything that Israel is doing to the Palestinians. And they're saying that you hate all Jewish people if you don't agree with what Israel is doing to the Palestinians and you call it a genocide. Well, what that does is it creates two sets of people, basically. One, people like me who are going to say, no, we don't hate all Jewish people. We disagree with the ideology of Zionism because we're against ethno-states, because that creates second-class citizens, and we're against that. We're for equality. That's one set of people. The other set of people are going to say, fuck it, I guess I'm an anti-Semite then. If the Jews feel this way, then the Jews are the ones who are crazy and evil, right? Because the actions are evil. You can't take the actions are however many people died on October 7th, tragedy for sure, right? Like, those people shouldn't have lost their lives. But we're going to get into something that I didn't know until I watched this video a little bit later about that festival and about that attack that happened on October 7th, where you have to ultimately blame the people who did the attack, but at the same time, there probably would have been way less casualties had Israel's government not did what they did. But we'll get into that in a little bit as well. But yeah, that's the logical conclusion, basically, that you're going to draw. It's one of those two. It's either, no, Zionists does not equal Jewish, and we're going to have to fight that narrative, or, oh, well, if you're saying Zionism equals Judaism, then F the Jews. Those are going to be the only two conclusions that people draw when they see the actions that Israel is taking. And Israel keeps saying, you have to support this, otherwise you hate Jewish people. Eventually people are going to say, well, then I guess I hate Jewish people. So you're creating anti-Semitism by conflating Zionism with Judaism, which again, I'm gonna try to find the article. Actually, I'm gonna play this video, and while I'm playing the video, I'm gonna try to find the article and bring it.
Anti-Semite. Case closed. Anyway, more effective than just listing organizations, we can go through the specific details which demonstrate that this is objectively genocide. Let's start with the death toll. You'll see propaganda peddlers on social media cracking up about how it's the only genocide where the population actually increased. Disgusting. It's impossible to get a true count, but any official numbers you'll see that hover around 70,000 killed are so far off the mark, it's insane. And anyone complaining that these are fabricated Hamas numbers is brainwashed. An independent study in The Lancet estimated well over 180,000, half of which are children, and that was in July of 2024. 2 full years ago. Previous estimates had been much lower because they only took into account bodies that were identifiable and directly correlated with airstrikes or gunshots. But thousands of bodies have been totally vaporized, leaving nothing identifiable behind. And thousands more bodies are still buried under rubble from all the carpet bombing or in still undiscovered mass graves. Additionally, so many people have died from wounds, from general poor health, from starvation, from freezing to death because they sleep through the winter in paper-thin tents, from disease because there's near zero health infrastructure. All of these are victims of genocide. They are deaths caused by the total and complete destruction of a territory and everything a society needs to survive. And Israel hasn't stopped bombing Gaza for a single day since July 2024, ceasefire or not, so the number is much higher now. Israel has murdered hundreds of thousands of Gazans, likely at least 20% of the Gazan population. That's genocide. It is a maximization of casualties while still maintaining their version of plausible deniability. They also specifically targeted hundreds of journalists, well over 1,000 doctors, and other key personnel publicizing the genocide and keeping citizens safe. That's genocide. The continued use of white phosphorus and other illegal weapons as documented by Human Rights Watch and Amnesty International. That's genocide. It's very easy to get much more granular with it as well. Francesca Albanese of the UN Refugee Agency published a report way back in March of 2024 that outlined a determination of genocide, and she has continued to update that report ever since. It documents explicitly stated intent for genocide, the long list of violations of international law, systematic torture and sexual abuse of prisoners with no legitimate charge against them, a total erasure of culture, the stripping away of any sense of dignity for an entire people. Israel really hits every single point on the genocide checklist. For writing these reports and sharing these determinations with the UN, Francesca has faced a volume of harassment and threats to her personal safety that I can't even begin to imagine. And that's coming from someone who is harassed every day and receives threats sporadically. You heard Mehdi's list, but let's expand a little. Human Rights Watch cited starvation as a weapon of war and the creation of conditions calculated to bring about the physical destruction of the Palestinian population. Doctors Without Borders cited the testimonies of doctors reporting that they routinely received children who have been shot in the head or chest by snipers, as we mentioned. UNICEF reported that essentially all of the million or so children remaining in Gaza need mental health and psychosocial support due to immeasurable trauma, especially the thousands who have lost limbs, usually amputated without anesthetic, and those who have lost their entire families. The international...
Okay, I got the article up. Let's pull this up. Okay, so this is from the AP. New AP North poll reveals sharp divides among U.S. Jews over Israel and Gaza. As Israel's actions continue to divide America's Jewish communities nearly 3 years into the latest war in Gaza, a new AP North poll reveals that some of the biggest gaps are between religious and secular Jews. Remember I told you that? The survey from the Associated Press Newark Center for Public Affairs Research makes it clear that for many U.S. Jews, support for Israel remains a bedrock of their religious identity, its existence a guarantee of Jewish self-determination and safety. Yet others, particularly those who identify as Jewish through ethnic, cultural, or family ties rather than religion, feel less connected to Israel and judge its actions ongoing conflict more harshly. Now, here's the numbers that I found really interesting. About 7 in 10 Jewish adults overall identify as Jewish when asked about their religious affiliation. So, again, you can be ethnically Jewish and not religiously Jewish, but about 7 in 10 overall American Jewish people will say they're Jewish when you ask them what their religion is. The rest, about 3 in 10 Jewish adults, say they're atheists, agnostic, or have no particular religious affiliation, but still identify as Jewish in other ways. Okay, so basically there's more of the numbers that we were going over in the video, so we'll get back to that in a moment. The Associated Press New York Center for Public Affairs Research surveyed 3,040 U.S. adults from June 11 through the 17th, 2026. 1,022 Jewish adults. Respondents were categorized as Jewish if they said their religion was Jewish, or if they identified as religiously unaffiliated but said they considered themselves Jewish because of their ethnic, cultural, or family background. Okay. So among Jews with religious affiliation, views on Israel's military actions are far from uniform or uncritical. About half say Israel's ongoing military operations in Gaza are justified. About 1/4 believe they've committed genocide against Palestinians. But they are more supportive of Israel's actions than secular American Jews. So again, with religious Jews only, about half of them support what's going on, and about 1/4 will flat out say it's genocide. So 25% won't call it genocide, but they're still like, I don't agree with what they're doing. So about half of them don't like what's going on, and that's for the religious Jews specifically. It's even more when you get to the secular Jews. About 4 in 10 religiously unaffiliated Jews say Israel has committed genocide, so that's already almost double. We're going from 25% saying it's genocide to 40% saying it's genocide. While only about 2 in 10 see Israel's current operations in Gaza as justified. So 80% of secular Jews do not justify the actions that Israel is taking, and about 4 in 10 Jews, so about 80% don't agree with it at all, and about 40% will go as far as to call it a genocide. So when you combine all those numbers, with the half that are against it from the religious Jewish side, sounds to me like the Jews that are for this are in the minority. You know, that's what that would tell me. Yeah, and the rest of the article is basically just interviewing people about the divide. But yeah, so there you go. About half of religious Jews do not agree with what Israel is doing. About 25% of religious Jews will be willing as far as to call it a genocide. And about 80% of secular Jews, these are American Jews again, do not agree with what Israel is doing, and about 40% are willing to go as far as to call it a genocide. So again, these things let you know that it's not Jewish people, it's not Judaism that is the problem here. It's the ideology of Zionism specifically that the problem is. So just wanted to clear all that up for you, and we'll continue.
The National Association of Genocide Scholars stated that the legal definition is cleanly met, citing war crimes and crimes against humanity. Jewish Voice for Peace, Amnesty International, even several Israeli organizations. It's a long list of organizations, and the list of criteria that qualify this as genocide is never-ending. 90% of...
I mean, and that lets you know right there, there are Israeli organizations that are saying, no, this is genocide. So again, this is a Zionist issue. This is not a Jewish issue.
Gazans displaced, absolutely all farmland unusable, continuous blocking of humanitarian aid, starvation and life-threatening malnutrition, mass executions of healthcare and rescue workers. Israel is a club of genocide overachievers. If you deny the fact that Israel is committing genocide, you are no different from a climate change denier or an anti-vaxxer or a fucking flat earther. You are denying the very obvious reality that we live in. Did you hear that, Stephen? Then let's talk about the complete demolition of the entire territory. Israel wants people to believe that they're the most moral army in the world, taking every imaginable measure to protect innocent civilians, while exclusively targeting filthy Hamas terrorists with laser precision. This is total horseshit. I mean, again, they proudly announced that they want to murder every last child in Gaza, so anyone who believes them when they say the opposite is a moron. But more importantly, there objectively is no precision whatsoever to the destruction in Gaza. More than 78% of Gazan infrastructure has been demolished by relentless carpet bombing. Every hospital, every school, every bakery, every city demolished. Once refugee tent camps were set up, they bombed those too. They tell them to evacuate even though they have nowhere to go and then bomb them anyway. They give them safe routes to evacuate and then bomb the safe routes. They designate safe spaces and then bomb those too. And when they occasionally let in food, they shoot at Gazans when they try to get it. It's complete annihilation combined with twisted psychological torture. It's very easy to look at image after image of the destruction to see that there was zero regard for precision. They weren't aiming for some imaginary terrorist. They were never doing anything but destroying Gaza from day one. You're not convinced by these images? Too small in scope? Let's get a broader top-down view.
I really want, because the date is January 2024 on the right side, September 2025 on the left side. So as the bar goes across, you're going to see the destruction in essentially not real time, but you're going to see it happen just gradually, and you're going to see exactly how much devastation. Like, this is like, look at the place right now. Just look at it. Green, you know, there's buildings and shit everywhere. Now let's see what happened from January 2024 to September 2025. Look at just... That's Gaza now. That's what it looks like today.
Presta atenção nessa cidade, ó. Uma cidade normal, né? Tá cheia de pessoas, avenida, cheia de construção.
That's what it looks like.
Eu vou mostrar para vocês como é que isso daqui é uma foto de satélite de 2023. Agora, olha como é que ela tá agora. Cadê a cidade?
2023, that's a slight image of Gaza.
Cadê?
That's what it looks like.
Cadê os prédios? Cadê as pessoas? Vou tirar o zoom para você ver o tamanho dessa área destruída. Olha o tamanho dessa área destruída. Olha isso aqui. Isso aí é a cidade de Rafah, no sul da faixa de Gaza. Fica na fronteira com o Egito. Essa área destruída, só nessa área destruída ao sul, toda essa área cinza, toda essa área que eu der um zoom aqui, eu vou ver uma área destruída. Essa área aqui é maior do que a área que foi destruída pela bomba de Hiroshima, a bomba atômica de Hiroshima. Qualquer lugar que eu aponte aqui, eu vou ver casas destruídas, destruição, uma das coisas mais horrendas da história humana. E isso aqui vai assombrar a humanidade por muito tempo. E o holocausto da Segunda Guerra se repetiu, infelizmente, e ninguém conseguiu impedir. E até agora os responsáveis por esse crime contra a humanidade estão rindo à toa. Fica aqui esse registro, porque é uma coisa assustadora. E como o olho que tudo sabe, tudo vê, não apaga a imagem, essa é a imagem real. Contra fatos, não há argumentos. O que aconteceu aqui foi um genocídio.
It doesn't get any clearer than this. Gaza
Look
is
at
now
this.
an uninhabitable wasteland. Absolutely nobody can keep a straight face and say that this level of destruction had anything to do with targeting terrorists while keeping civilians safe. We can.
You do all that to get back hostages, you say? Well, if the hostages were in any of those buildings, wouldn't they for sure be dead? So you didn't do it to get back hostages. That lies out the window immediately just by the amount of destruction you caused. You did that because of October 7th. Okay, well, again, let's look it up. How many people died on October 7th? $1,200 people. Again, those are 1,200 people that should still be alive. Well, the numbers are in the hundreds of thousands. We know for the guy, and that's how you retaliate. They do a terrorist attack that kills 1,200 people, and you justify killing, wiping out all that territory and killing hundreds of thousands of people because of 1,200 people that a quote-unquote terrorist group got. So you kill everyone. That's basically what the United States did, though, when we went over to Iraq and Afghanistan. We killed over 1 million people because they killed 3,000 here. So, as an American, you know, I'm not trying to act like we're so much better, because obviously our government is assisting in all of this, all of these atrocities. You know, again, we're funding Israel. We are their bank. So, I mean, everything that they're doing is because we're allowing them to do it, and we're facilitating their ability to do it. So I can't stand that as an American.
Know this with even greater certainty by looking at what they're doing in Lebanon.
And this isn't Gaza. This is Lebanon. This is a totally different country, a sovereign country, as he mentioned earlier. They have no right. I mean, they don't have a right to do what they're doing in Palestine either, but at least there's more of a land fight situation that you could use to maybe rationalize it, whereas here,
village
Lebanon
after village,
part of Israel.
town after town, not individual buildings, the entire town. This has nothing to do with terrorism. This has nothing to do with Hezbollah, whose label of terrorist organization is laughable to begin with. Hezbollah and any other group that is labeled terrorists by Israel are simply people desperately defending themselves against Israeli terrorism. Hezbollah.
Yeah, like if you blow up my house and kill my entire family, and I know who did it, and then I come and I kill the individual who did it, I'm not a terrorist. You know what I'm saying? That is metaphorically what's going on here.
Formed as a direct response to the Sabra and Shatila massacres, for example. Israel is the aggressor state, slaughtering anyone they please, and anyone who stands in opposition to that is labeled a terrorist. These groups are the rebellion in Star Wars. Israel is the fucking empire. Do you think Emperor Palpatine would label Luke Skywalker a terrorist? Of course he would. Supporting Israel is like rooting for the fucking Death Star. But again, this level of destruction has nothing to do with Hezbollah or any other supposed terrorist group. This is demolition. This is an erasure of a people, their lives, their culture, to make room for Israeli expansion. A huge chunk of Lebanon is Israel now. They will build, settlers will come, and that's the end of it. Then they'll steal more land tomorrow, and the cycle continues. They'll tell you themselves if you ask them. Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich sure did.
Let's talk about the day after the war in terms of real estate. You've spoken out against Jewish settlements in the Gaza Strip. Question, where, in your opinion, should the first settlement in the Strip be established?
אני מודה שלזה לא ציפיתי, אני מוכן להתחיל מהתוכנית החוזרית, אבל זה לא מצחיק, יש תוכנית, תקשיבו לי טוב, יש תוכנית עסקית
There's a business plan set by the most professional people there are
שנמצאת על השולחן של הנשיא טראמפ.
and is on
ואיך
the
הדבר הזה הופך
president Donald
לבוננזה
Trump's
של נדל"ן, אני לא
table. This is how this
צוחק, מחזיר את
thing
עצמו.
turns off.
אגב,
I'm
אני
not
התחלתי
kidding,
משא
it
ומתן עם
pays off.
האמריקאים, ואני אומר את
I
זה לא
started
בצחוק עכשיו,
negotiations with
כי
the
אני גם דורש,
Americans because
שילמנו
not
המון כסף על
joking.
המלחמה הזאת.
We have
אז
paid a
אנחנו
lot of
צריכים
money for
להתחלק
this
איך אנחנו
war,
עושים אחוזים
so
על
we need
שיווקי
to
הקרקע
divide how we
בעזה.
make a percentage of
ועכשיו,
the land marketing later in
לא
Gaza.
בצחוק.
And now,
את שלב
not
ההריסה,
kidding,
את
we've
שלב
done the
ההריסה,
demolition phase,
שהוא תמיד השלב הראשון בהתחדשות
which is always
העירונית
the first
עשינו,
phase of urban
עכשיו
renewal.
צריך לבנות,
Now we need
זה
to
הרבה יותר
build.
זול.
It's much
It's
cheaper.
not funny. There's a business plan. Thanks to Trump, the
Saying,
real
I'm not
estate
joking.
mogul,
No
cosplaying as
joke.
the president of the most powerful nation on earth, it's gonna be a bonanza. When you decide that you want to steal some land, first, you demolish everything. That's always the first phase. If people are already living there, kill them by the hundreds of thousands if you want. What's the difference? They're not chosen people like us. Murder them, displace them, whatever you have to do. Destroy absolutely everything in the region until not a single building is left standing. Then go in, clear the rubble, and build luxury condos or whatever the fuck you want. Easy peasy. Do you understand now what has been happening since October 7th? Do you understand that it was never about terrorists or protecting Israel or getting back hostages or anything of the sort? Not for a single second was it ever about any of those things. Israeli officials didn't give two shits about hostages. They were an excuse to keep bombing. There were deals on the table early on that involved a ceasefire in exchange for all of the hostages being returned, and they refused. In October of last year, they got all of the hostages back that they didn't kill with their carpet bombing. That still didn't stop them. And I wish I had saved my tweets from early in the genocide, but I didn't, so you'll just have to take my word for it. But I was saying all of this. From day one, I knew that this was premeditated ethnic cleansing and land acquisition, belligerent imperialism in the 21st century. Everything I was saying came true. That Gaza would become Israel, that they would do it to Lebanon too, and I was silenced for it. Anyone who didn't have their head up their ass could smell it, but if you couldn't see what was happening then, do you see it now? Smotrich says they paid for this war. They paid money to fabricate pretense for a military operation with the singular goal of clearing out Gaza to keep it, with Lebanon and Syria to follow shortly after. Now that they're most of the way there with Gaza, an American military base is being built within the territory, and plans are underway to round up remaining Gazans and put them into concentration camps while they clear out the rubble and start to build new Gaza. You heard that correctly. Zionist Jews are going to put people in concentration camps.
What more evidence do you need that Zionists have completely taken the ideology of the people that hated them, the Nazis, and are now using it against their so-called enemy, the Palestinians and the Lebanese, and essentially all the Arabs in the area that live on land that they want to take?
And you heard the other thing correctly, too. New Gaza is already being sold to the American public. Jared Kushner, Ivanka Trump's husband and haunted marionette, unveiled the plans for New Gaza, which will be luxury resorts as far as the eye can see, with some land carved out for Trump as a thank you for greenlighting all of this. And guess what? If you were one of those folks thinking that Israel's actions are way over the top, but what are you going to do because October 7th? Well, I'm going to take that away from you as well. Israel almost certainly knew what was going to happen, and they did nothing to stop it. The music festival taking place just 3 miles from the Gaza barrier was moved there from its original location at the last minute. Military response to initial activity was delayed for hours in a way that is difficult to justify. Israeli soldiers were even ordered to cancel all patrols along the Gazan border on the morning of October 7th, with no justification given.
Why would they do all that? Why would they do all that? If they had intelligence that there was going to be an attack on October 7th, and then the music festival that was not the planned area of attack gets moved closer to the area that is the planned area of attack, and all the soldiers are told not to patrol the Gaza the border, which they always do, but for that day they were. This sounds a lot like 9/11. Sounds a lot like, we know that they are determined to attack in the United States, but we're not going to do anything about it because we kind of need a justification to go over to the Middle East and start all these wars that we want to start. But the American people aren't on our side, so that'll be the reason right there. So we got to let this happen. It kind of sounds like that. All except in Israel's case, Israel's citizens were already on board. They don't give a fuck. It was more so about the internet community allowing it to continue, because in most situations we'll step in and stop a genocide if we think that's happening, but the international community has to all be with the United States being so powerful in the global landscape. To kind of do whatever they want without really any repercussions, because the United States has their back. So that's kind of the problem with that. But yeah, that sounds eerily familiar though. That's and that was something that I didn't know until I watched this video. Like all of those things, you know, the lack of response, moving the military, moving the festival, all that stuff. Like that's a little too much to be right. Seems like it.
אוקטובר, אתה במוצב. אצלנו ה7 באוקטובר מתחיל לפני 6:30.
For us, October 7th starts before 6:30. I was a soldier at the Mortar platoon of the Golani Brigade's 13th Battalion. And that night, myself, Yoram Soror, my sergeant Tamar Yehuda, may he rest in peace.
שלושתנו עושים לילה לבן.
הרשינו
לעצמנו בשבתות וחגים במיוחד לעשות לילה לבן עד לכוננות עם שחר, ואתם יודעים, יש לנו זמן לישון מחלקת מרגמות עד לכוננות הבאה. אז ב-5:20 בבוקר אנחנו יושבים מאזין, והסמג"ד שלי, ניר בוינפלג, שגם הוא נפצע קשה, וברוך השם הוא שרד, פתאום עולה בקשר בהודעה מוזרה. כל התחנות, לא יודע למה, לא יודע איך, משהו בסגנון הזה, אין סיור בגדר עד 9 בבוקר. 5:20 בבוקר.
Are to hold their position. So in terms of ground forces and Orv, we don't have something. The brigade issued a directive to our forces pending a situation assessment until 9 a.m. No vehicle is to approach Bama. I'll say it again, until 9 in the morning pending the situation assessment, no vehicle is to go down to Bama. We're in rear staging areas of brigade level arrangement. I don't know exactly why. I don't ask too many questions. That's the directive. That's what we do.
קצת לפני שהכל מתחיל.
A little before it all begins, and Tamir gives us this look like...
מה?
What?
ואתה יודע, אנחנו חיילים פשוטים סך הכל לוחמים, לא מפקדים ולא קצינים שנוכל לשאול שאלות, זו הוראה של הסמג"ד, מקבלים את הפקודה הזאת ולא שואלים שאלות, הורדת פקודה רגילה, ובאמת אחרי שעה, 6:30, פתאום אזעקות.
אני אגיד לך את האמת, אני חייתי עם זה מה7 באוקטובר ומאוד חששתי לדבר על זה, וכשהגעתי לכנסת זה היה אחרי תקופה ששאלתי כמה שצבא בכירים, מה בעצם קרה שם. והיו כאלה שבהתחלה אמרו לי, תשמע, היו צליפה של נ"טים על הגדר, לכן לא רצינו לשלוח חיילים, כדי שלא ייפגעו. ואז עם הזמן קצת נפל לי הסימון, ואמרתי, רגע, אם יש איום צליפה, איך יכול להיות שאני סך הכל 200 מטר מהגדר, לא יודע שיש איום, איך יכול להיות שחברים שלי נלחמים בלי וסט, עם תחתונים וגרביים, ואף אחד לא יודע שיש משהו, אנחנו סך הכל 200-300 מטר מהגדר. ואז זה עוד הפעם ישב לי בראש, ובאמת, הזמינו אותי פתאום לכנסת. הרגשתי שזו ההזדמנות באמת לפתוח את הנושא הזה ולדבר עליו ולהבין בעצם מה קרה שם. והנה, את אומרת, כמו שאת אומרת, הרבה אנשים זה נשמע להם תמוה, ומה בעצם קרה שם. ואנחנו עוד פעם חוזרים לזה, ואני אגיד לך את האמת, אני חי עם איזשהו חור במוח, מאז 7 באוקטובר. שמשהו בלב מרגיש לי אני לא יודע מה שם, לא יודע מה שם, אני רוצה להבין.
A little coincidental, no? Beyond this, hundreds of the civilian casualties were the fault of Israel.
But yeah, so he's basically saying, like, it was kind of moving a little fast for me to keep up, as you could tell, but basically he was like, yo, I don't understand still to this day why they told me not to patrol, and why they told us all not to patrol. It still doesn't make sense. But we can't ask questions because we're low rank. So even there, like, yeah, it didn't make sense to us either.
due to both friendly fire from incompetent teenage pseudo-soldiers, as well as the Hannibal Directive, which involves killing their own citizens on purpose to prevent their captivity, including a tank firing on a kibbutz. This is how much Israeli officials value the lives of their citizens. When you remove military and police casualties, which are absolutely fair game, as well as friendly fire and Hannibal Directive deaths, you're left with a number of civilian casualties that are exceeded by Palestinian deaths on any decent day for Israel since October 7th, and countless days before as well. Gaza was the most heavily monitored population on the planet. Israel knew that this was their opportunity to get 9/11 levels of support for murdering Arabs, and they took it, plain and simple. Now, if you thought that Israel was only a menace to its Middle Eastern neighbors, think again. Israel is a threat to the United States and every single American too. Let's go over the countless ways that Israel is specifically ruining the U.S. Let's start with some...
So, I'm going to stop it here just because, I think you all should check out his video for sure. It was an excellently done video. Shout out to Professor Dave Farina. Again, if you, just want to learn a lot about science, he is a perfect person to listen to on YouTube. Definitely follow his channel. He has very specific. So like there's biology, just like on a basic level, there's evolutionary biology, there's astrology, there's, astrophysics, there's, just physics in general. There's quantum physics. He gets into all of these different subjects, so that way you can, sort of get a layman's understanding of how science works, so that way you can at least have a conversation about it and, just sort of understand the way that we have come to understand how everything works in the universe, within ourselves, everything, everything. So he's a really good communicator for that. So, and then again, if you're looking for some hilarious, ruthless debunks, he's also the guy who destroyed Lord Jamar in the flat earth debate. So that's where I first became aware of him. And when he just came on, he looked like, I stereotyped him immediately, just looked like a, unassuming white dude. But then when he was getting like aggressive back with Lord Jamar, I was like, oh, okay, like this dude, he's kind of, what I'm saying? Like he's got a little bit of energy to him. And then I noticed, when I watched a lot of his other content, that was kind of his thing. He aggressively defends science and goes after pseudoscientists of all varieties, So again, I highly encourage you to check out his channel. Doesn't really do a lot of political content. This video, he was asked to do because, he would bring up Israel from time to time in other various videos when it did make sense or when it coincided with the subject that he was discussing. So he would do that. But he's not really a political channel, It's just that science tends to lean left. It just kind of does, because there's not dogmatic thinking associated with it. It's based purely on empiricism, and experimentation and being able to repeat results. So since you can't do that, anything supernatural or anything, not in the physical world, then it's not, science ends up lending itself more to liberal ideology, I would say, more so, like, obviously, like, because, and the reason I say that is because the more fundamentalist of a religious person you are, the more right-wing you tend to be also. The less, and we saw that with the study with American Jews, the more religious Jews are more right-wing. So, and I think that's sort of standard across the board. Whereas the less religiously ideologistic you are, or the less you take it literal, the more scientifically minded you likely are. And knowing how science works typically is going to make you a lefty, like in most situations. Because with any of the things that right-wingers tend to be against, the science is kind of on the opposite side. You know what I mean? Like if you're a climate change denier, you're probably a right-winger. You know, if you're anti anybody in the queer community, you're probably a right-winger. You know, and then there's science on the left wings, or not on the left wing side. There's just science that left wingers accept that explains basically all of these things that may not make sense on, you know, at face value, or may not, you know, seem to jive with how the rest of the world is at face value. But, you know, the science behind it makes sense. So it's like, okay, well, that's a thing then. Like, we have to accept that, you know, for what it is. So that's why I say that more scientifically minded people tend to be lefties. You know, I'm not saying that there aren't right-wing scientists or science-minded people or any, you know, nothing's an all or nothing thing, right? But anyway, that's my video for today. I hope y'all enjoyed it. This has been Politics as Usual with Shane G. Please make sure you like, you share, and you subscribe for all the latest content on the channel. Make sure you check out the interviews. And until next time, peace.